Johannes, welcome to Founders Tales. Do you want to give everybody a quick intro to yourself and your business Diffraqtion?
Hey Chris, thanks for inviting me. Yeah, I'm Johannes. I spent my career in AI, and actually I like to joke that I was replaced by AI when I was 8 years old. I was a chess player and played a bit kids professional chess. And 1996, Garry Kasparov was defeated by IBM Deep Blue. And then I realized my professional chess career is over, and I should focus maybe on this new thing, computers and AI. So yeah, I've been since then kind of hanging in there with the AI curve at the very early days of it. Kind of studied AI, did my master's thesis in AI like early 2000s. Then spent a bit of research time in AI and built the first kind of gaming or game theory and AI combinations to play chess and other board games. Interestingly, that kind of became a bit more like AlphaGo, AlphaFold, and actually just won a Nobel Prize a couple of years ago, like some of that related research. So at the time, I didn't know it was that relevant, but here we are. And I spent then my career in building AI applications early, like drones, automations for automotive manufacturing, and then got the opportunity to bring in data and AI capabilities at Novartis. It's a pharmaceutical company. So at the time where I started, it was very much very digital, and we went kind of from not very digital to leading AI capabilities. I stayed there about 7 years. It was a really great time and built a big team providing services across the whole company of building capabilities. It was a really cool time, and I enjoyed building things and decided I really want to go from like 0 to 1 billion. So did 2 mid-career degrees, one in Oxford and one at MIT. And focused really on entrepreneurship, AI, and then later quantum technologies. And when I focused on quantum technologies, I worked at the Center for Quantum Networks, which is the largest center for quantum technologies in the world. And the founder and director of that institute, Saikat Guha, he was the director of the institute. I met him and talked to him about this technology that he was building. He had this very cool eye that is looking for aliens. And I was like, hey, that's pretty cool. If you're looking for aliens, you're pointing upwards, maybe you can point downwards or point at other things and do something very useful before, the aliens will produce, I guess, some sort of GDP, but maybe not convincing enough for VCs to invest in something like that. But if you do other things, you can make it an interesting use case. So we applied for a DARPA SBIR that we got awarded, started the company, got my co-founder Christine in. So Christine is a brilliant CTO with like 20 years of experience in photonics and quantum. And yeah, that's how we started the company. We raised some money for it too, from VCs. And now we're here at Greentown Labs, which is actually the labs right next door, and building this guy here, which is called Galileo 1. So this is a cube satellite. So it's a very small satellite, which is like a 6U. So you have like 6 of these little boxes. And our camera is this one. This is orange piece. This is a telescope of 10 centimeter diameter. So it's a small telescope down here. And yeah, this will be shot into low Earth orbit and will provide the highest resolution possible from any commercial satellite today in orbit. And we can do it because this little camera here can see 20 times further than any conventional camera, which means that this lens can become 20 times smaller than a massive lens that's the size of the school bus. And that reduces the cost of the entire thing by 200 times. And because in space, things don't scale linearly with cost, but more exponentially. And that's if we make it smaller, we can make it much, much cheaper. So we intend to have hundreds of these guys in orbit. doing all kinds of missions. And yeah, that's a little bit about what we're doing.
Very cool. So in terms of getting to the product as it is today, how long has it taken, and what kind of journey have you gone on to get to something that you're happy with?
Yeah, so let's say the fundamental research behind it started about 7-8 years ago. This field is called super resolution for passive imaging. So there's like something called active imaging, which means you have light and you illuminate something. And that super resolution is a much older field. And actually in 2013, the founder of this science that built a microscope that can look beyond what we call the diffraction limit. He received the Nobel Prize at that time. But then after that, you still need to illuminate, and you need to play tricks with illumination to kind of trick the camera into picking up more information. But what we do is passive imaging, which means that there is no illumination. We're looking at stars or objects which are very far away, which means we cannot really shoot light at them, right? So we have to use what's out there. And this research started about 7 years ago. Saikat, our co-founder, was one of the fathers of this technology. And the last 7 years, various institutions have put money into that research and kind of brought it to where it is today. And today, we started the company about a year ago, where we first applied to the first grant. We got the grant in earlier this year, so we have been effectively running for the last 6-7 months or so. And in this time frame, I've established a lab, brought together the brilliant engineers from all over. And the journey is still a bit forward. There's still a bit in front of us. We have to get the camera to work in the conditions of space. So if you can imagine, it's not just making the camera work, but it's also all these other systems have to work together with the camera. They have to send data to Earth. There's a lot of vibration going on right when this thing is launched to space. And then in space, you have things like, radiation cosmic radiation comes to it, and you don't have the atmosphere to protect you. So this has to be also shielded appropriately. And then you have things like weather, space weather, but you also have weather on the Earth that is coming, like different conditions that you need to correct for. So there's a lot of things going on to make this space ready. So our launch is targeted to come first launch in 27 and the second one 28. So we still have a couple years to get this fully ready for space ready to get this mission up there.
Yeah, sounds like you've got a few things to take into consideration.
That is good.
Brilliant. So in the last year, what would you say is the one lesson that you've learned through building the company that you didn't know or appreciate fully before jumping into building a startup?
Yeah, so I think one lesson was we thought kind of being at the intersection when you go in with a very good idea. So the idea in itself has fantastic merit, because you're saying, hey, you have a camera that can see 20 times further, and you can calculate things better than an NVIDIA GPU 1,000 times faster. So you think, hey, computing, quantum, and then you have kind of, you can apply it to multiple things. That's self-runner of riding on this wave of compute, right? But the narrative for it isn't, there's in the last couple of years, the funding has kind of shrunk a bit, especially the last year. VC funding is much tighter than maybe it was even 2-3 years ago, right? Or especially when it was, 5 years ago. So you have to have a much more clear roadmap, a much more clear timing, layout for how you're going to build it, who's going to be partnering with you, how are you going to do the whole business development, who you're going to hire, right? So a lot of documentation, a lot of things to think through when you're still figuring out, where's the horizon of things. You kind of really have to narrow it down, and then produce a lot of documentation and explain people your plan and your narrative. And when you're building a technology like this, so often this is a quantum camera, so it uses quantum mechanics to achieve those benefits. Now, it's a complicated technology to explain, right? So you have to verbalize that, and you have to um, make it somehow tangible to people who don't even know how normal cameras work, right? So when you start with things like that, you have to pick up people from very, very different backgrounds and bring analogies that people understand them. So building this narrative with the technology, which is so fundamental, like a camera can be everywhere, will take you some time. And to really refine this narrative is a prerequisite to raise any sort of money, which helps you build the thing, right? So it's a bit of a chicken egg problem. But I think that really made me appreciate how much work goes into just the pre-planning before you have raised any sort of money, the pre-planning and the preparation for even a pre-seed round in today's environment, even when you have a fantastic tech. So that was quite a humbling experience. But yeah, we went through it, so we learned a lot, and now our business model and our plan, everything is much more refined than when we went into that fundraising. So that has been has been a fantastic experience too.
Yeah, so that refining came off the back of feedback from investors that you were approaching initially.
Yeah, so both from investors, from advisors, but honestly also just a matter of time. Like, it's a function when you are, let's say when you're 4 months old and then you raise money, at that point, even adding, 1 month gives you 25% more time to figure out things, right? So at that point, every month that you're working on this, you're getting much more mature. It helps to have, a venture capitalist looking at that and giving you feedback. Although, of course, you will ask 10 people, they will give you 15 opinions, and that's especially true in the venture world. So, you have to be certain and be convinced, most importantly, about that idea yourself, and then find your match, right? So not, VCs have to buy into many things. Some are factual and some are belief, right? So the factual things is kind of, okay, here are my unit economics, here's my plan, here's my relationships, here's my traction. But then there's a lot of belief. For example, with VCs telling us we don't believe in space. Space is not going to be, we don't care. We don't think you will make these returns in space. And at that point, it doesn't matter what I can tell you about this tech. The fact that I want to send this into space, you're out, right? Or you might not want to invest in deep tech because you say, hey, you're only going to create revenue in like 2-3 years when this thing is launched. That's too long for me, right? I'm out. Or I want to have the returns of software, which is like early validation, and it's a very different scale. So at that point, you have to have some fundamental beliefs where you match, right?
Yeah.
And then you have to find people who believe in all of the above, right? So you have to find people who believe in quantum technologies, in basically compute and processing, but also into space domain. And this intersection is quite tricky to find, but we found amazing partners who gave us and wrote those first checks for our pre-seed that believe in all of the above.
Yeah, perfect. Excellent. And then earlier you mentioned you've assembled an excellent team around yourself. So what's been the hardest role that you've had to fill, and why was it a difficult hire to make?
Yeah, great question. So we were quite lucky in the sense that early on we were part of a competition, and then we had 3 judges at the competition. I was actually at the engine at MIT, and then one of the judges was a CTO of another company, like they were doing biology. 2 others were turned out the one was an investor. He actually became one of our first investors. The second one, Mark, actually founded another space company called Kepler. They had raised, that's like close to a unicorn at this point in Canada. And then he actually joined our team. So he's now our head of product. So he liked it so much that he joined us. And I don't think I could ever hire somebody with those qualifications, or somebody who basically built a space unicorn from the ground up and get them to come and join the team. So that was an impossible hire. It really came kind of, serendipitously. And then from the engineering team that we hired, the thing is that we need, hardware and software. The software part, there is quantum, it's called quantum information theory. So it thinks about what's the information that's contained in a photon and how do you extract that information to achieve the super resolution, right? That you can see beyond your limit. And that one happens, there's maybe 5 groups in the world that actually work on this. And we know all 5 groups. One of them is SciCat. The other 4, we know them very well. And then we received the CV where it was like, oh, this is this guy we didn't know was in a group that actually doesn't do that, but he decided for a reason to spend his PhD in super resolution with machine learning. And he even had a patent which was very close to ours. So we said, oh, where was this guy? Where was he hiding? And, we interviewed him. He had exactly the background. He just started last week. So that was a real slam dunk. We were worried we would need to wait 3, 4, 5 months to hire that person. But again, serendipitously, we found, or he found us, applied, and then we basically immediately hired him. So that was quite a slam dunk. Yeah.
Fantastic. Good on you guys. So you're based in Boston. What advantages or frustrations do you see when it comes to building out a startup in Boston versus the Bay or New York, maybe?
I think an advantage is, the weather. For sure. No, I'm just kidding. That's a hard sell for many people to come here, but we like the intersection of photonics, quantum, and hardware, and hard tech, building hard stuff. You have all kinds of companies in the area here that are doing both like processing, like semiconductors, but also like hard tech, so physical things. And you have a lot of the users that are doing robotics, lots of things that spun out of MIT, Harvard, and so on. You also have a quantum community, which was important for us. And obviously, we have a background. I have the MIT background, so is SciCat, and Christine is from Harvard. So we could plug into all these networks to get people to us that we have a relationship with. There's also a good defense connection in the sense that you have Draper Labs, there's BBN, and there's a few other companies that are doing early R&D or R&D of very hard or bit further out kind of defense tech. So there was a fantastic network. The downsides is of course rent. So getting space is expensive. Salaries are obviously higher. Cost of living is higher, so it's a bit harder to get people to move here. And also, I think Massachusetts does not have a particular focus in quantum, although it's very strong in quantum. There are other, more poles, like, for example, Chicago has become a big quantum center. New Mexico and Maryland are spending a lot of money and attention to build quantum ecosystems. Massachusetts has so much, different kind of industry that they don't necessarily put this as a big focus. Also, there's not really a big space focus that, there's Colorado and LA that have these big focus in space. But there is a good, small, strong, and tight community in space. And then also in quantum, people know each other and orbit this whole Cambridge area of between MIT and Harvard and BU and so on. So overall, I think the strengths for us, it seemed like it's a sweet spot for finding the type of people we need at this point, and also in the future, which is kind of building the camera and the optics and the quantum part, and then people who know how to bring this whole thing together. So finding this kind of technical talent, Boston was a great area.
Yeah, brilliant. Makes absolute sense. And then have you got any ideas in terms of how the Boston startup community can better support early stage founders like yourselves?
Honestly, we have really extracted, I think, the maximum from the Boston startup community. So we did the engine blueprint. We're on the MIT Startup Exchange. So in the blueprint, we met actually one of the first investors and our product had. We're now part of Mass Challenge, Security and Resiliency cohort. So I think we extracted most of what you can get in that ecosystem. That's fantastic. I think beyond that, what is really, Greentown Labs and the engine itself are also communities on their own. So yeah, it's a very tight and nice community. What's probably missing a little bit is the non-life science focus. So life science has like a nice, has a few hubs that things kind of rotate around. For non-life science companies, it's a little bit harder. And there are not really hubs that are theme specific, right? So the space community, you have to search for it. There's a small one, you have to find it. Quantum community, you have to build it yourself. So we're still not, I think, as connected as we could be. And often this is about also helped by people who want to build or invest in a particular area. So yeah, the engine is doing a great thing with focusing on deep tech, right? Greentown on like also basically environmental mission and around the planet. But then more back like verticals would be very nice to build out these communities. And honestly, also to get away from this vibe that whatever you're building, you should be in Silicon Valley, right? If you're not there, why are you building it? So I do think Boston has a lot of benefits, especially for people attempting hard stuff.
Yeah, 100%. Brilliant. And reflecting, what's been the best piece of advice you've received from another founder?
For hard tech, what you're doing is you have you have a long journey in front of you, right? And I think generally what we get from founders, or let's say this founder community between us, is a lot of therapy, right? Of like exchanging what's not going well, what's going well. How can we learn and from these experiences, and how do you overcome some of these challenges? But good advice that I got was for this deep tech, it's a very long journey, and we'll have up and downs. You have to kind of be behind the mission to go through it. And the big part that a great advice that I got was like to the way how you put your priorities, right? So each kind of quarter you have a couple of objectives you're trying to do. You're really super focused, and at the beginning your focus is kind of de-risking the tech, right? So you're putting a lot of focus on de-risking that the device can actually do what we're saying it does. Because early on, if you have a technology like this, which is early stage, then this can really shift entirely your business case or even your industry, because what you initially thought is not even possible. So yeah, this ultra razor sharp focus on a couple of objectives every quarter, have the whole team follow it, and focus it initially on de-risking the tech. I think that has been great advice for us.
Yeah. I think I kind of operate with the rule of three. If you've got over more than three key objectives, then you've got too many.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Brilliant. And then a final question. So apart from your founder therapy sessions that you have,
Right.
how do you personally stay sane and motivated when it comes to dealing, as you said, with the highs and lows of building out a startup?
Yeah, honestly, that you need to have your balancing time where you focus on something entirely different. I love I play a lot of squash, so it's a group of squash enthusiasts who are some founders, some non-founders. Great to kind of keep the balance too, but kind of focusing on getting your exercise in. And then the second thing, you also should have like a great hobby for which now is kind of dual. For me, it's kind of a little bit traveling, exploring, and photography. So together with my partner Jenny, we do take our time to invest in spending quality time and pursuing those hobbies. So I guess that's where you kind of squeeze it in. Even when the day is tough, you kind of have to squeeze it in. Kind of put it in every day. Yeah.
So cameras are important in all facets of your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, listen, thanks very much, Johannes, for joining today. I've really enjoyed speaking to you, and what you guys are doing is super cool. So, best of luck for the future for yourself and Diffraqtion. I hope you guys, go from strength to strength.